good a time as any to formally introduce this event to the world. Hey, you all probably know this, but I am BoboTheVulture, and I have sourced someone to help entertain you through the coming 2 hours. With me is a very special guest who I will ask to step forth and introduce himself now.
I guess that's me. I'm Lethal. You probably know me. I play a lot of racing games, but probably not as much time on my channel as Bobo.
Not as much of the literal, yeah. Well, it's only been 2 games. It's just been Gran Turismo and Gran Turismo 2.
But you know, these 2-hour races, and whenever you get the GT4, you'll have to do 24-hour races.
Yeah, I maybe some time before I actually get to that. Honestly, the big stumbling block is going to be I never really cared for the third one. It's probably my least favorite of the series out of all of them that I have played. So after Gran Turismo 2, I think the next racing project I take on will be something different. Not quite sure what.
Well, maybe we can discuss a bunch of racing games, and maybe you'll get your brain pumping and whatnot. You'll be inspired to take action.
Blood flow and everything is, yeah, I'll be firing on cylinders and such.
Racing euphemisms, folks.
That's right.
And references.
Okay, damn it. I really want to get this chat positioned a little better than it is.
Someday, Bobo, you need to check out the StreamJar thing. Even if you don't go in for donations, the overlay is fantastic.
Yeah, I kind of just like having the continuous bar because I worry that if things get a little quiet after a period of time, that you know, it'll just look lonesome over there in the empty gap along the side of the screen on all these 4:3 ratio games.
For sure.
That appear to be a specialty of mine. Now, I heard somebody recommend to me because of course I haven't put out any of these in a very long time, but
sure.
I put out the last endurance I did over the Christmas holiday, and somebody suggested, hey, you know, the soft tires are actually not that bad. They don't immediately go off the way that you might expect. So I'm going to try that. Just for shits and giggles, and we shall see whether or not anything happens. I guess I can have the decency to do 1 test lap.
Yeah, probably.
And just to make sure I actually still know how the game works. Also, folks, I think I mentioned it briefly earlier in the setup, but I can't actually see, or I can see. That would be really bad. I can't actually hear what I'm doing.
I was going to say, it'd be really impressive is what it would be.
I can't actually hear what I'm doing, so I'm going to have to take, yeah, this is somewhat more difficult than I would have imagined, because you have you have a visual indicator on the right side of the screen of what gear that you're in, but
you can't hear what kind of effort the car's putting in.
You can't hear what kind of effort the car's putting in, and you always have an audio indicator of what gear the car is in just by being able to sort of like hear in your head, like, well, okay, this, I may need to find another controller, because this controller apparently is periodically just deciding I need to look out the rear view for a millisecond, which does not seem like it's going to be, oh boy,
conducive to winning a 2-hour race.
Well, provided it decides, oh yeah, there. I do not have my finger on the R1 button, which is the button that you would use for this sort of a behavior. Oh man, no, that's actually to change the viewpoint button. So what is rear? Oh, L1. I didn't have my finger on that one either, but let's see whether or not, with the discipline of having settled in and done 1 lap.
And you are playing this on the PlayStation 3 because you have one of the originals that has the, actually not emulation, but it's perfectly compatible at a hardware level, right?
No, this is one of the 80 gigabyte fat ones. So it is it is hardware compatible to PlayStation 1 and software compatible to PlayStation 2. So yeah, no, I guess this should be right on the money. I forget that sometimes I'm actually playing PS1 stuff on this. You know, I started this LP long enough back that I didn't want to do it on PC because the PlayStation 1 emulation was not quite where I would have wanted it to be for that experience. Whereas now, it seems like it probably would have been the way to go. But, you know, you can't turn back time.
Well, yeah. I mean, I think you started this one a couple of years ago.
Yes, that sounds about right. Okay, so this is not bad, although, again, I do apparently periodically look behind me for no damn good reason.
I was going to say, I know it's been a couple of years because I remember watching this series at my apartment, and I've had this house for a bit over 2 years now.
Well, perhaps it is against better judgment, but I think it would actually take me longer to find and pair a controller that would work better than this one anyways, because I never realized, but the shelf life on these things, as it turns out, what if I just unplug it? I wonder if whether or not the, nope, that was not the issue, but, seems the shelf life on these controllers is not near as good as I was really hoping for. I don't know if it just, I don't know what it is, because it doesn't seem to be the analog controls that are doing it. It's just this thing is sort of hopping around at random. Consider this an added challenge, potentially. I don't know, but
something to counter the OP-ness of the Scudo here, right?
Yeah, something like that. I think yeah, we'll give it a go. I mean, honestly, I hadn't noticed. It seemed like it was sort of flickering the D-pad buttons and the L1 button. Oh, I forgot that this one starts off immediately. So, okay,
Running
everybody
start,
else,
yep.
you got a couple of seconds of head start there. Okay, let's see what we're up against here. This is that's...
Got lots of big names out there, lots of fancy-looking ones. I like that yellow one.
Alright, hang on a second. It has managed to switch back to digital control rather than analog, so let's go into the controller settings.
Flippin' human technology.
And back out of that again. Now then.
It is probably when you unplugged it. It's all, well, time to go back to digital.
Oh, you know, that's what it is. Well, let's see how this works then. Wow, it is getting trippier than ever. This is
controller, please. Bobo doesn't need this kind of pressure here, and the viewers do not need epilepsy.
Oh my. Yeah, and I already had performance anxiety enough as it is, because I have been recording this series sort of quietly and on my own. Hadn't done any of it live, so if I did terribly, I could always just stop, load, and no one would be any the wiser. That's, I guess, not going to be true right now. All of you assembled here are liable to hold me accountable for my actions. Looks like we've got a Vector over there, and what is that thing? The Storm. I forget. The Lister Storm. That's what that was.
Yeah, I remember the yellow one is that Lister.
Jaguar XJ220, which was supposed to have been a far more impressive car than it really was. It was supposed to have some kind of mighty turbocharged V12 or something like that, and they eventually just ran out of money to develop an engine, so they sort of took a racing V6 that they had and had someone tune it down a little bit so that it would actually sort of work on a street, and it's too bad, because it's a really neat looking car.
And of course we have the Ford there.
Yeah, the Ford GT40 just skipping on by. And, ooh, here's the, what is that, a Nissan R390 from back in the, that is sort of how you can tell when any of these given Gran Turismo games are from, is what is sort of the big bad boss of any of the given racing outfits involved. It's, oh, that's the car that they were trying to race in Le Mans that year. This is from back in the era when Nissan was trying to make an effort. There was Nissan in Japan. It was a clash of Japanese titans. None of them actually managed to do it. The only Japanese manufacturer to win at Le Mans, well, I think, did Toyota manage to do it here in the past year or two? They came back after a long absence, but Mazda did in like 1990. or thereabouts. And there was a big push later on in the 90s for Toyota and Nissan to attempt to gain overall honors, and they never did it. They fought back and forth, and then other outfits would just sort of leap in and take the glory. I think those were more years for Porsche, which is the outfit that's probably won there more than just about anybody, although Audi has racked up the wins in the past, I don't know, decade. Although they stopped this year. They finally stopped their endurance racing operations, which is a sad chapter. But I guess being part of the same ownership group as Volkswagen, they have a lot less free money to deal with because they're having to pay off billions and billions of dollars for all their cheat hacks on their diesel engines.
Of course, with their gas mileage lying.
Yes, their secret. But I think that honestly comes from the same sort of a spirit as the racing operations. What clearly happened there is that engineers saw a rule book, and they saw that the rule was, oh, it's not allowed to exceed this amount of emissions. And they're like, well, okay, how do we define that? It's like, oh, well, these emissions are defined as you go and you take this test, and if it fails this test, then the car is illegal. It's like, well, all right then. Our goal is to make it pass this test. It's not necessarily to make it. They taught the car to the test. They didn't teach the car to the knowledge.
Sure. Also, hey everyone, Jordan, Erdenshire. You have just arrived to the 2-hour Bobo and Lethal car web show, effectively. Car and racing web show. Car
racing epilepsy hour.
Yeah, if you're wondering why it's flickering back and forth between the rearview mirror, it's something weird with Bobo's controller. That's part of the challenge, since he is using the car that, for whatever reason, the CPU really never gets to drive in any of these, as far as I'm aware, the Suzuki Escuda.
Yeah, there is one event where the CPU gets to drive it, and it's clear the CPU is not driving it as flat out as it could, like it just never programmed in, like, oh, well, you know, honestly I should be able to go faster than this and swing this thing around more violently than this. But they only, for the most part, they only take rally cars out on the rally events in this game. And this is the first game where they really had rally events. And it seems like it's a feature that they really wanted to have, and maybe they didn't quite develop to the utmost. So it's just sort of a side piece. And the AI on it is, well, I say the AI on it is not as great as it could be. But in even cars, it still manages to beat me sometimes because, you know, as much as I enjoy these, I'm not the best.
For sure, and rally racing is quite difficult in these Gran Turismo games. I know a lot from 4, which in addition to dirt has snow, and snow is its own kind of animal.
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, they do. I forget if 4 has ice racing, but ice racing is a whole other racing genre that some people get involved in. That is not. I don't think it's ever had its own like set bespoke game, but they'll set up courses on like frozen lakes and things like that, and people just have to drive around literally on sheets of ice, and they'll form the concrete barriers and stuff. It's just all ice sculpting. I mean, it's not like a fancy ice sculpture, but you know, they'll dump barriers of ice in and around. They'll have them at like ski resorts and things like that.
For sure.
A lot of for some reason the two or three very famous people that are involved in ice racing that I know of. I say very famous, but like you might have heard of them somewhere else. Alain Prost, who is a 4-time F1 world champion, got into ice racing after he retired. Olivier Panis, who is another Formula 1 driver who drove for Alain Prost's team after he retired to become a team owner, because it's the same sort of thing as so many other sports. You're involved as an athlete or a competitor for some amount of time, and then you have to figure out a career that is involved in some way, but is not, you know, actually doing it anymore. Director of football operations, or I mean, they have directors of racing operations the same way. It's just, yeah, he's some guy. He's associated with the outfit that he was when he was the guy out there earning all the laurels. But
sure. And Deckneck asks here, you've gone through GT1, you're on your way to finishing GT2. You can go through 3 and 4. And he actually covered that earlier, and that can actually lead into our next topic. Yeah, you didn't especially like Gran Turismo 3. You think it's one of the weaker additions to the series, so you thought you were going to branch off and do a different franchise of racing game. What did you have in mind?
Well, I say finally, although I've had it for a while, I find anytime I have a new gaming acquisition, it just takes me a long time to get around to actually sitting down and either familiarizing myself with it or getting involved in a series on it, unless it's something that I already know really well. But like, I guess a while back now, I finally got a 360, in addition to the, PS3 that I've got, because for a while there I was involved with gaming reviews. I wrote them for the website that is now nothing but political news, so yeah, that's not really going to be a thing anymore. But for a period of time there, I had those, and while JG was off in Afghanistan, I was minding his 360 for him, making sure it didn't, collect up dust or anything. So I would get thrown 360 games to review, and that was around the time that Forza 4 and the original Forza Horizon came out. And I remember being really intrigued by Forza Horizon at the time, but I never really ended up getting too deep into it because, I already had the full-time LPer's mindset of if I'm playing this game, I don't want to just be playing it for my amusement. I need to sit down and do something really thorough with it, and I hadn't actually accomplished enough in the game or gotten enough practice in the game. I don't think I was doing as much console recording back then. So yeah, I was thinking about doing Forza Horizon, but well, we'll see. It's not an open world game in the sense of you get out of your car and you wander around. Like honestly, the Grand Theft Auto games are open world driving games. Yeah, there's other crime and stuff that you end up doing in them, but most of it is just you're terrassing around the world, the game world in a stolen car. You might be being chased by cops, you might be shooting somebody, but like most of the time you're just driving around somewhere. But it is, it's kind of like, I guess, some of the later Need for Speed games. They eventually started developing Need for Speed games with plot lines, although I think I only ever played maybe one of those. What was it like? Was it Need for Speed Carbon that I'm thinking of?
Last Need for Speed I think I played was either on the PSP or Hot Pursuit.
Now they made it more than one Hot Pursuit game, because I remember
this was the first one.
Oh yeah, I still have that one somewhere. I don't know whether or not we could fire up GameSpy.com or something like that and see whether or not we could host a multiplayer session of that.
Well, GameSpy is dead now, Bobo.
Yeah, no, I realize the GameSpy is dead, but that was the...
Game Ranger might be able to do it. It's some kind of like cheat service kind of thing.
Yeah. That was actually the first game I ever really played very much that I didn't do any much modding myself, but that I availed myself of mods, because so many people made like hack cars for that. And tried out some of those here and there. A lot of them were really difficult to deal with if you were just playing using a joypad or keyboard controls, which is how I still end up doing all these games. I think I have a USB wheel, but it was just so cumbersome to sort of set up on my desk. Uh-oh, it is starting to affect the R triggers.
Nah.
I just had that point of view change. There you go. This is what's happened, folks. On race day, we came in and we found that there was a fault with the controls. There's a technical fault with the car, but it still runs. So either we had to forfeit and give up all the glory. Ouch. Or we could get out there and try and tough through it. That's what we're doing.
Because we're not quitters, we're winners.
That's
just
right.
like the Escudo.
We're winners, we don't use drugs.
Also, I don't think the Escudo would really fare too well in a race like this, even though it's a very fast car. It's made for sprinting, not exactly for endurance racing.
Yeah, it is made to take one run up one mountain, and it's Pikes Peak. It's not an inconsiderable mountain, but at the same time, it's not the whole course, and it's probably only like maybe a few. I mean, the course itself is probably like a few miles long, probably less than 10 miles, but it is That's all it's got to do, and then it gets to stop and rest and be fixed up and whatever else needs to happen to it. It doesn't have to just keep going for hours at a shot. So
at 160, 180 miles an hour with its two 6-cylinder engines, one in the front, one in the back, as we learned early in the broadcast.
Now, wait a minute, that looked like it was the Nissan R390, which I would expect to have been the second place car in this, but I wouldn't imagine I am already passing that far up.
Shouldn't be.
Maybe I really am cheating that much. Nope.
Also, Need for Speed Carbon is one of Cod Raven's favorites.
Now, is that the one where you're where you're a guy, where you're an undercover cop that's attempting to infiltrate this street racing gang or something like that?
Possibly. Let me look up the information. Sounds a little like Driver with that stuff, right?
Yeah, Driver. That was one that. That's a game that I have that again I enjoyed a little bit, but just ended up dropping after a little while, just because I had other pursuits at any given moment. That was one that I picked up for free because it was a game at the rental store I was working at the time that people were returning on a fairly regular basis, and the owner of the shop, it was a mom and pop operation. Well, just pop, but it was a pop operation. He didn't really have any video game systems or anything else like that, so he's like, well, could you take this home with you and check it out on yours and see whether or not it really is messed up, or are these people just trying to get their money back? And it did stutter a little bit. It was workable, but it definitely was a little scratched up and skipped a decent chunk. And I imagine that if you didn't have the best conditioned PlayStation, I could see where it would just sort of throw its hands up and give up. That's also how I got Kagero Deception 2, which has led into the love of the Deception series among the Vulture brothers, or the G brothers, depending on how you want to term them.
I always try to mix it up. The Mysterious Vulture Bros.
Mysterious Bobo, the name that we inadvertently ended up with for a run through of it was probably MGS3.
My God, Bobo, you're being rated.
Uh-oh.
That rating. Okay. I haven't even been rated, man.
Look
at all that.
What is rating? I thought you said I was being.
Is rating your butt.
I thought I was being rated. Like, oh, I hope they're saying nice things about me.
We need Grimmeth and then a thumbs up, folks. Look what your rate has done. You've sent the Escudo out of control, folks.
That's right. It's so distracting, the chat, that I literally can't see because it's out of my field of vision. So, be sure to at an appropriate party if you have something that literally needs to be drawn to my attention. But otherwise, everything is all being filtered through Lethal here. He's my lifeline to the outside world. I have to be.
Even Growth himself is rated. My science.
I have to be too focused on the intense speed of this double-engined vehicle.
So, back on our topics, other than just being rated, that's one racing game you might hit is Forza. Have you ever thought of doing games that weren't more realistic racing, like
fantasy
Forza,
racing,
it could be like anti-grav racing, it could be kart racing.
Something out of the Wipeout universe, perhaps.
For sure. Or even stuff like Burnout. Or Driver.
Yeah, no. There's interest there. I think most of the simulation ones, they can get a little too sim-y, which I guess is sort of why a lot of people just don't understand folks getting behind a game like this one in terms of long play and live streaming. I did see somebody doing a Forza Horizon stream on Beam the other night. And
so, Bobo, can you see your viewer count right now?
I can't see my viewer count right now.
You're at 204 viewers, my friend. Or 104, rather.
Oh, okay, I was about to say that. For a second there, it's like, I could be winning Beam right now. I'm not entirely sure.
You're definitely up there right now, my friend.
Oh.
You're probably on, the up-and-comers page.
Oh, well, there we go. I really should have monetized already somehow. I should have cashed in before the popularity hit. Oh, well.
True, Aventaro, it is me that you're hearing. Yes, I can't number it all, Savage. I was just so excited for Bobo that I lost my ability to read. There you go.
That's exciting times. I wonder how many people are planning on sticking it out for the entire, let's see, remaining,
Yeah, we're not even a quarter
remaining an hour and 40 minutes.
This is more of a web show than a racing program. Although racing will transpire here. We have an endurance race, 2 hours, not 99 laps anymore, only 74.
Oh, no, it says 99 there, but you will notice that...
84, rather.
We will not actually reach 99. 99 is just the thing that the counter will be stuck at. We are not actually racing for 99. We are racing until 2 hours expires. That, I think, this is the one timed event in the game. All the rest of them are to a length or a distance. A length or a distance. That's right, folks. I like to say things.
Well, either way, we're about a sixth done with this whole program. There's plenty of game left.
Alright! Oh, that's true. I don't have any of my custom emojis because I've not set up any sort of a partnership deal or anything else like that. So, sadly, God, how come I've lost... This is what happens to me. I lose the names of common everyday things. Louis Anderson. I lost the name Louis Anderson in my mind.
I love that. Common everyday things. Louis Anderson.
Common everyday items like Louis Anderson.
It's not like I go look in the fridge. There's Louis Anderson. It's not
well,
like
if you were somewhere in your house, where do you think you'd be?
Look over my nightstand. Louis Anderson.
All
Common
right.
household items.
Perhaps a household name. Maybe that's more the terminology to use. But no, like a household item. Like if your text parser didn't have something like Louis Anderson in it, then it's going to eventually just cause people frustration because they just can't type using their natural language like Louis Anderson.
Sure. Ocho's42 says, I stuck around for your entire Diablo 2 run, which even I didn't make it through. He'd stick around for this.
Oh, now did you stick around for my Diablo 2 run, or did you stick around for JG's, or did you stick around for Grimmett's? 3 great Diablo 2 playthroughs that all just had basically just slight differences in audio level and point of view.
Yep. DJ asks, why isn't Lethal a mod? I'll turn green in time, don't worry about it.
Oh, actually, that's a fine point. Perhaps at the next pit stop, I'll have to go down and see about that.
Erdenshire asks, do you think that you'll be sticking around with Beam so far?
Well, so far so good. It seems as though I haven't had as many people sort of just throw up their hands and decide to leave a stream because they just can't look at it. I had maybe one person so far say that they were having trouble with it stuttering, and they hadn't tried refreshing yet. So once they did, all was well. So that seems like it's a more ringing endorsement of the reliability of it. Now, I'm obviously not the best sample size, although after this raid, apparently I'm a great sample size. So if anybody is having trouble, then we'll finally know that these are the limits of Beam. And of course, the other endorsement of Beam is that you're not being screen shared on this in any way other than just looking at the stream yourself, right there, Lethal?
That's right. And are you using FTL today or just regular streaming?
I'm using OBS. Does OBS even function through FTL, or do you just end up having?
No, you're using the regular system then, so I'm about 5 seconds behind. There is a special version of OBS that's OBS FTL. It's on like Beam's thing. I just installed it today, so.
Oh well, shoot.
Or you can use the other one, which is Tassion. I don't recommend using that.
Yeah, that seems like it would be one for if you are willing to troubleshoot things, which, I mean, I'm happy to help people troubleshoot things, you know, just by going through checklists and attempting to do stuff for them. I've been doing a lot of that here the past couple of days with Zerf. He's been trying to get together a command board for a game that I guess I won't get too much into in case he wanted it some kind of surprise.
And I know what it is too. I also won't give away the surprise. He's right here in the chat.
Oh man.
He'd immediately come down on our heads if we said anything, I'm sure. Also, DJ says you missed the pit. The tires aren't even red yet, man.
It's true.
There's no chance of blowout. What's the point?
I've never actually experienced a blowout in a Gran Turismo game. Basically, the tires just get so hot that they get undrivable before I've ever actually experienced them blowing up. I think just sometime for science, maybe I should try and take a pair of Super Softs out and just drive them like 50 laps and see whether or not they go anywhere. But it seems like they just punish you by making the vehicle more and more difficult to control to the point where it's just ridiculous.
They just pretty much melt.
Yeah. I mean, I suppose the fronts are getting the very slightest tinge of orange to them, but that's after 20 laps. I have to say, I didn't go back and see who it was on the most recent Gran Turismo 2 videos that I had up on YouTube that suggested, you could probably go softer and you'd still manage to get some decent wear out of them. They would seem to be right, so I didn't go for super softs. I figured they would probably make at least one set of tire have comically low wear, and these seem to be gripping just fine. Of course, a lot of that comes down to the cartoonish wings that are on the front and the back of this Pikes Peak rally car.
Well, man, you gotta have that downforce when you're flying up a mountain, right?
Well, I mean, the air gets thinner. You need more surface area to attempt to actually to motivate the car's lift in one direction or the other.
Also, that's good to hear, Grimmup. The memory leak is fixed in the beta. Also, Zerfall's running out of battery on his phone.
Oh, you're gonna have to go to your computer.
And Zerf asks, have you tried thin up front and thick in the rear?
Oh, in terms of tires, yes. That was that was actually another nice bit of interactivity that I had happen when I hopped over to the Forza Horizon. I guess they're up to 3 now on the X-Bone. But the guy was attempting to set up his rally car for an event in the snow, and he was trying to figure out, it's like, geez, I guess maybe I should get thicker tires. I was like, no! You need thin tires when you're on the snow because you need the most weight on the smallest surface area possible. And he's like, well, I guess that makes sense. It's like, I don't know whether or not the game engine thinks that way, but that is what you would actually need in a snowy condition. Snow tires tend to be thin, whereas like racing tires tend to be thick.
Yep. And also in the snow, it helps if your tires are a bit underinflated because it allows them to spread out a little bit more and get that surface area.
There you go. But and if you ever look at pictures of rally cars traveling in the snow, they'll have these little things. They look like, you know, the cheapest economy car tires possible. They're super thin, tiny things, and they will have little metal studs embedded in them, which I guess is, you know, the more advanced version of tire chains.
I actually saw those the other day when I was getting a haircut. I'm like, hey, you got studs in your tires. It's kind of neat.
That seems like it would be. It seems like it would be a real difficulty for the actual road workers out there if people just started driving around with studded tires.
There's more pressure for them to make better roads, right? Ones that can resist that kind of wear and tear.
Well, you know, there's one thing that people tend to say about this country. It's that the roads are the road system is way better. There's a lot more roads that'll take you a lot more places, but the roads themselves tend to be way worse. Just because we've got so many of them to make, we got to make them kind of cheap. Big old concrete slabs that are made to last rather than made to be billiard smooth to ride on.
They're smooth enough on the interstates for the most part, and that's what matters, right?
Yeah, well, I mean, you know, you get your nice sort of like a horse gallop going over individual slabs that are held together with tar.
Grimmett, you're a terrible person for not whispering.
Oh, is he doing careless whispers over there?
They're talking about Stardew Valley.
Oh.
And then he just sounds like everyone start talking about Stardew Valley. Not everyone, but a few people.
And it's like, all right, everybody, let's go raid a Stardew Valley stream.
Damn it.
I've seen relatively few Stardew Valley streams on Beam so far. Maybe I just haven't been looking. I mean, they're out there, but I feel like whenever Hitbox would show up, whenever I was looking at the Hitbox menu, like the top half a dozen things that weren't maybe somebody wearing revealing clothing while doing artwork, they would be Stardew Valley LPs.
Sometimes you need a model whenever you're doing art, not Bobo.
It's true. You need a model doing the face cam.
I'm used to Grim, but that's what I have.
That's understandable. I'm not gonna hold that against you. Grimmeth is an everyday item, like Louis Anderson.
Exactly.
He just comes immediately to mind.
There you go.
Oh my! It was a couch stream. It's one of those. Yeah, I will say what was it? The I guess Dance Virtual Revolution, whatever the game was. Audio Shield. That's it. That does seem like it was a fun game for various possibilities. Didn't they do a what was it? I guess Audio Surf was sort of a racing game involving music, wasn't it? Or am I thinking of a different game in that same genre?
Let's see. Is it some kind of rhythm racing game? If it is, I'd need to try it.
Yeah, I think like it makes some variety of procedurally generated course based on whatever music that you put through it. I don't know whether or not it's more like you're just on a set, sort of like a tube, and you just have to dodge musical obstacles that come at you, or if it actually generates sort of sweeping left and right turns based on sweeping changes in tempo or something.
Well, it's definitely a racing-esque game. They do call it a casual rhythm puzzle racer.
Puzzle racer?
I know, right? Like, what the fuck is that?
Well, that sounds right up our respective alleys, anyhow. I suppose I should go find it and check it out. See if there are any nice public domain songs that people would be interested in hearing. I'll drive around to La Donna Immobile from Rigoletto. Sure, that'll be good.
Everyone will love it.
Yes, Opera Racer. I would actually
without much hammer, you could probably race around into OC Remix stuff as well.
I think, man, actually, that would be. I feel like I might have a niche like that down to myself if I just started taking opera productions and audio surfing them, or doing some other variety of customizable rhythm game. I keep wanting to say ribbon game for some reason. I guess because they always look like ribbons of neon light when they're sort of those sorts of zero grav maglev style racers.
I gotcha.
They tend to get sort of Tron gritty.
For sure. Whenever you say ribbon game, I always think, do I need to install Microsoft Excel to play this, or what?
Yes, something like that. Everybody, manage your spreadsheets.
Convox, the game wasn't Beat Hazard, it was Audio Surf.
Oh, what is Beat Hazard though? Is that a musical based fighting game?
I believe that's a shooter. That's one that Grimmeth likes, as far as I remember.
Alright, the fronts are starting to get a little hot now, so I could put that sign out in front of the Krispy Kreme.
Fantastic.
I mean, it's still going just fine. Yeah, like, geez, at this rate, we will be pretty close to 99 laps, if I'm doing my maths right here, at the end of 2 hours. Because we just crossed we're a quarter done with the race, we're a quarter done with the time. That sounds about right. Although if I keep driving around with terrible tires. Also, wow.
I can hear it vibrating from here.
Well, you know what that is? This is the first time I have played using a PS2 analog controller. Not analog controller, but the DualShock 3. This is the first time I've played using a DualShock 3 since I got married. So that is the sound of a DualShock 3's the little left handhold rattling against my wedding band.
I see.
Yep, there it goes.
The immersion is real, folks. It's like we're holding the controller ourselves, and it's hitting our wedding band, right?
Hold my hand. Okay, this is...
Beans finally let you back on PS controllers, sir.
That's right, it took so long. Well, now he's got his significant other playing one of the earliest shake 'em up controller games. Or games using one of the earliest controllers. I think he's got Jaxor's playing something on N64, if I recall correctly.
Oh yeah?
Yeah. I don't know whether or not she's got the Rumble Pack installed, or whether or not I'm telling tales out of class by talking about all what Jaxor's might be doing.
Zer says the Rumble Pack is out.
I have to admit, for the most part, I never have really found controller rumble especially conducive to my play experience, but may just be... Okay, yeah, these are all pretty cooked now. You can see how piping hot red they are, and the fact that I have to get down to first gear to turn. I am
definitely noticing how squirrely the car is getting. So it's almost time for Lethal to turn green, as far as I'm here.
Yes, that seems to be the big cue. Alright, yeah. But the nice thing about this this car is that once that starts happening and it loses grip entirely, its neutral attitude tends to be toward understeering as opposed to oversteering. We have seen that it is possible to spin this car out, so you can get some snap oversteer going, but for the most part... Alright, there we go. Let's... Alright, limited speed. How quickly can I get this accomplished? Yep.
Also, while he's doing that, Zerf says that he has to save the game often, this N64 game. Back when I regularly played my N64, I had like 2 controllers always plugged in because I need that save function. If you've never had an N64, the save cartridge actually plugs into the controller, which is sort of an odd thing to do, but
Alright.
So I'd have the vibration thing, the Rumble Pack, stuck in the back of my main controller, and I'd have the saving card in my secondary one.
That's right, live promotion, everybody. Now, if you go back and watch this stream later on, you can now see a quick screen grab tutorial of how you can promote somebody that's in your chat to a moderator.
Yep. Click their name and then click the thing that says make mod or something.
Yeah. Oh, it was a promotion. You got a promotion, so it's just a promotion in title only. You're not getting an increase in salary, I'm afraid, but...
Well, Mollygon asks, do I get a keychain now?
Well, I mean, if you ask nicely, I can fish up something around here and send it that way.
Be a friend. All I need is a keychain.
You know, come to think of it, I have so many keychains here because every time that you get one of those, like, $3 sure-to-fail laser pointers that they always market as, you know, a toy to play with your cat with, because they do, admittedly, go crazy for them. But they always have a keychain clip on them, I guess, just because they're the right size for it. I don't really know what good use you would have for a laser pointer on your keys, other than attempting to blind other motorists, which happened to me one time. I was driving home. Actually, I was driving to my parents' house, so I'd already been on the road for like a couple hours. And right as I got on the exit to got out on the off ramp to start heading towards the house, somebody pulled up next to me, started shining lights in my car, and then they started chasing me. It was a good thing that I was close to my house, and I knew a back road that nobody can take at the speed limit, and just tore ass through there, so I was able to lose them. But it was...
This is like some Tom Clancy shit here, Bobo.
Well, it's kind
is there something that we don't know here on the internet? You're some kind of man of mystery?
It was just well, I was thinking it was going to be some kind of survival horror situation where then I crashed the car and attempted to run away, but I saw that they came out after me, and I heard a ch-ch-ch-ch.
And the only thing that you found comfort in was all of the discarded thermoses along the way.
Yes, all the let-go thermoses or chips or whatever it is in your particular survival adventure that makes things work out. I've been watching. I'd never heard of the game before, but if you hadn't seen Zerf's playthrough of Lifeline, which of course is still going on,
I have. That's a good one.
I'd never seen the Lifeline before, and I'd never encountered a game that attempted to guide your character solely through voice control, and it's both more impressive than I would have expected, and has every bit of the annoyance that I would have had to imagine would come up. That if you have an accent, or you just don't have the dialect that they were expecting, or you know, you call a corpse a body, or something else like that, then you're going to be in real trouble.
Yeah, I noticed that the game really does not like how Zerf pronounces bag. He pronounces it more like big, and it just doesn't care for that. It's all, what the fuck is he talking about?
That's
bag.
bad.
I don't want to. On another note, my guilty pleasure is hearing it say bad. I just really like that.
Bad.
Tell me again, please.
Say it with me now. Bad.
Who's a bad operator? It's you. Come on, now. I am the worst.
I don't need to be condescended to.
Shit.
I can lock you up in these, like, small handful of rooms and let you die. And apparently, for some reason, you won't shoot at monsters when they hop at you if I don't specifically tell you to, and tell you what part of their body to shoot at.
Well, she's just so helpless, Boba. I mean, they're jumping at her, and I mean, can you even tell if they have stomachs? Really, that's what she's asking for. It's just confirmation. So that is the stomach.
So they do have a digestive system, presumably. They must eat something because it has to go into a stomach. Otherwise, there's no reason to have one.
Also, Zer says, as far as I can tell, I say everything perfectly normal. I mean, that's just how it is, but the game begs the differ.
Well, that's well, I mean, it's a Konami game. You're trying to get the best brains at Konami, a company where they've decided that they're going to focus on their home market, which means erotic pachinko machines based off of Castlevania and Metal Gear Solid 3. Like, I don't know whether the
Castlevania, now with more Alucard than ever, I'm sure.
I guess I don't know whether or not the Metal Gear Solid 3 pachinko machine is erotic horror the same way the Castlevania ones are apparently now. But there is, apparently they've done a, I keep seeing videos online for, like, brand new HD, like, 4K cinematics of Metal Gear Solid 3 sequences. And they are all for, not for an HD re-release of MGS3, they're all for a pachinko machine based off of Metal Gear Solid 3.
4K pachinko. What a time to be fucking over.
Oh, I mean, at that point, do you even really need the physical balls anymore? Actually, I don't know whether they even have the physical balls anymore. I don't know if they've got the balls.
I haven't walked into a pachinko parlor in Yakuza, and that's my only window into Japanese culture, so I don't know.
Oh, geez. I mean, JG and I, many years ago, took a vacation to Japan, and sure enough, you know, there are arcades, pachinko parlors, all the rest of that sort of thing there, and it is weird because the distinction between arcade and pachinko parlor is not as clear as, like, you would imagine that it would be here, for example. Like, Bean and I, we did a honeymoon on a cruise ship, and it had an arcade and a casino, and they were on different floors, they were for different people. But over there, I don't know. Maybe it's just, maybe it's way simpler to tell if you just happen to be a little bit better at reading Japanese than I am, which would be capable at all. But it did seem like pretty much a pachinko parlor. You look at it, it's like, oh man, what a sweet arcade, and then you're like, oh, I get close enough now, I see, no, this is clearly, there's gambling machines going on.
This is just disappointment in here.
Disappointed!
The thing says, what's even the point of pachinko when Yakuza 4 and 5 exist? Because they have pachinko, right? Well, you can't, like, win fabulous prizes from that game, other than, you know,
in-game prizes.
Experience.
Oh, you might get a green ball instead of a, well, or no, which is it? Is the red ball the good ball and the green ball the bad ball? I forget.
I'm just throwing up my hands. The only ones I'm talking about, the only the closest thing I can think of is that whole lottery game with the red balls and the gold balls and whatnot.
I think that might have been what I was thinking of. That's not pachinko, clearly. That's just a
a lottery box thing. The pachinko, it just shoots out a continuous stream of balls, and like you have minimal controls to direct the balls where to go, and there's like a scene playing in the background. I'm just recalling what I remember from Yakuza 4. Because I was trying to remember I was trying to figure out what the hell it was doing in this cutscene or whatever, because it was all in Japanese. For whatever reason, they didn't translate this part. Probably because no American would understand, which was really, really astute of them, really. Because I don't fucking understand what's going on. I probably wouldn't understand with words.
So I gotta ask you, are the other Yakuza games as sort of like overall life encompassing as Yakuza 5, or did they make a concerted effort to expand sort of like alright, these guys, they're clearly more than just guys that are constantly taking off their shirts and fighting for control of the criminal underworld?
Well, the only other one I've played is 4, and in 4 you start off as Akiyama, who's a moneylender, has no connection to the Yakuza world whatsoever. He's really just a successful entrepreneur who, well, I suppose
occasionally has women, occasionally tries to turn women out, if I remember.
Well, he has a nightclub, or a hostess bar, rather, by the name of Elise.
Oh, so he's the one that's got all these angry hostos coming out.
Yep, he has one connection, which, after he was framed in some kind of financial bullshit, he's homeless and whatnot. Well, one day, underneath this tower, a bunch of money falls out of the tower. He uses the money to invest in stocks, and then he gets fabulously rich because he's a naturally gifted day trader or some crap like that. That's how it works.
Yeah.
And let's see.
Only I'd done that.
I was going to say, the other characters in that were Kiryu, which is, he's deeply involved with Yakuza. Then we have Sajima. He's also deeply involved with the whole Yakuza life. And then we have, I think his name's Taneshima, who is a police officer.
Oh, so you're coming at it from all directions.
Yeah, and he had a pretty cool style. It was really Jito-esque. So as far
now,
as
when you said he had a really cool style, for a second there, I just thought that you were talking about like, oh yeah, he wore some really sweet threads, but no.
No.
Talking about his throws and counters and stuff, yeah.
Yes. No, he was like I was gonna call him a Chinese import, and he kind of is, really. And he helped all the other foreigners in Kamurocho, because they have like a little China area. Not exactly sure what his nationality or ethnicity it was. I think he was part Japanese, part Chinese at the end of the day. But, yeah, there you go. So as far as all life encompassing, I think this number 5 is taking it a step further, but I think that's just how Yakuza works. Is all their effort just keeps snowballing into a larger and larger Omni game.
I just like the amount of like rest of world that there is. Like that was why I was realizing like eventually like, oh my gosh, it's like a Steambot Chronicles. Steambot Chronicles being a thing where like they don't have specific like there's no like you talk to somebody in town and then there's like the like giant title flies down and says your mission, collect up watermelons for this guy, or, you know, whatever the thing actually is. I don't think there was a watermelon collection mission in that game, but, you know, like, you can basically talk to everybody in all the towns, and they all have their own little stories to tell, and some of them you can actually go and help, and some of them are just sort of there for flavor. And there's, you know, like, there's a stock market, and you can deal with that, or you can not. There is, you know, you can help out the museum by going and digging for fossils if you feel like it, or you can not. There's gladiatorial combat with your giant mecha, which, I mean, you can avoid doing for the most part, but obviously, I mean, it's a game about you having a giant mecha that you found on a beach after you lost your memory.
Story as old as time.
That's right. You wake up with no recollection and then find a giant mecha next to you, and you're like, well, I guess I'm going to take this out someplace and figure out what exactly happened to me. So eventually, of course, you're going to have to fight people with this, you know, big old mecha. But you know, there's a billion different things you can do. You can cart people around. You can convert your robot into a taxi and just take people from town to town for money. You can.
It's an efficient use of a giant mecha, you know. What am I gonna do? Fight other giant mecha? No. We're gonna be responsible and make a living, get a real job.
I'm gonna hang a cab that I can fit 4 people into off of its back and just sort of walk hunched over.
Let me go ahead and install Uber on my phone. We'll get this fucking entrepreneurship started. There you go. Also, DJS, am I excited for Yakuza 0? Very much. That comes out on January 24th, if I remember correctly. So there's still quite a bit of time for me to finish 5.
Oh, what does that come out on?
That comes out on the PlayStation 4.
Oh, okay. So, maybe some of these will get PC releases at some point. I would appreciate that.
I hope so.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, it's not out of Sega's realm to release things for PC. They've released lots of games on PC. Games that they've, you know, developed and everything. All the Sonic stuff. Quite a few others, but they're not alien to that concept.
Well, I mean, they kind of have to be at this point. I mean, yeah, sure, they had their own contained gaming ecosystem up until Dreamcast, but now they pretty much, since then, they've had to sort of fend their own way with wherever it is they want to use their IPs. I mean, Nintendo even, like, I guess now if you've got a cell phone, you can play Nintendo games. Other than that, though, it's always been their deal. I haven't actually played Super Mario. What is it? Super Mario Jump? Is that the new one? Run.
Super Mario Run or something. It's just a runner game, so not a whole lot of interest. Also, hey there, Leonardo, and everyone else joining in. What was I going to say? As far
I've got another hour to go, dear. Dinner is ready, as it turns out. I was thinking that we might be able to figure this out. If we got it going quickly, I was like, yeah, I'll totally be able to get it done before dinner time, Eastern Standard. But now, I will heat up that food later on. It will be fine. Yeah, no, and Bean is entirely preoccupied in the realm of whatever the latest Dragon Age is. Not Inquisition, or maybe it is Inquisition. It is Inquisition. All right. There was Origins. Oh, Awakenings was the other one, maybe. I forget. Game of the Year was like $5 or £5 British pound download. So, like, hey, that's pretty.
That's kind of reasonable. Yep.
Yeah, that's downright. I will give you my PayPal so that you don't get all confused by the fact that I'm trying to give you dollars for sure.
PayPal bucks are good anyway.
That's right. They're especially good for PayPal.
Also, as far as Yakuza is concerned, I'm fairly sure, just from my observations, that Sony has some kind of exclusive deal. That's probably the only reason it's going to stay off of other platforms. Because that's all it's released for, is for PlayStation and stuff.
Oh, so I was thinking, geez, if they had 5 of them, that maybe Yakuza got started on Dreamcast and then they had to move it elsewhere, but...
As far as I'm aware, it's always been a PlayStation series. Started on the PlayStation 2.
They have churned out a bunch of those in not that much time. I guess I'm used to sort of the old-fashioned idea where I guess a lot of games, not all, because of course you had like 6 Mega Man games on the original Nintendo, but a lot of games like you'd get one chapter for this generation of console, and then the next generation of console, here's the new one. Here's the new, well, I guess, geez, now I think about it, that was mostly Nintendo properties I'm thinking of, like the new Metroid,
or the new Mario, or the new Link.
Yeah. Or
Zelda, rather. You just play as Link. I am looking forward to Breath of the Wild.
That does look pretty interesting. I may have to get that one on, well, I guess I'll probably get it on, what's the one now? Wii U, just because I'm still not entirely sure about what is going to be up with this whole Switch thing.
I might do that if they have like a dual buy offer, like a cross buy. Like if I buy it on Wii U and I get a Switch later, I can own it in both places. That'd be pretty sweet.
Yeah. I do admit it is a little bit frustrating anymore. The HD remakes of things, like if you get your timing wrong on something, then you're just sort of completely out of luck. My poor dear bean did. I had on my sort of like general wish list for the longest time Zelda Wind Waker, because I played it a little bit on the GameCube, and still had a GameCube and a Wii, but had never, had the time to go all the way back through it, because I was, playing it on a friend's copy. And she got it for me for my birthday one year, and then I think maybe later that year, the next year, the HD version of it came out for Wii U, and of course now that is available for $20. Whereas if you were trying to get it used on GameCube before that, it was, I don't know what she paid, and I would find it rude to ask, but I have to imagine it wasn't a bargain used game sort of a price.
For sure. Also, Oblivion, or Savage Oblivion has. Did Shenmue 3 come out yet? No, it did not. It's supposed to come out this coming year's winter. As far as I'm aware.
That's the thing that the Yakuza game is reminding me of. It's reminding me of what I've seen of Shenmue. I mean, obviously the plot lines are a little different, but just these sort of like, well, here's a city you can sort of wander around in, and maybe you want to go check out the arcade, you can do that. If you want to go help out some other rando at this restaurant, you can do that.
Also, what was I gonna say? Oh, in Yakuza 5, they definitely did expand the universe. Like, in 4, it was only one town, the Kamurocho, Tokyo. But now we got, like, so many other ones. We have, like...
You've got a remote village in the north that's being under constant siege by bears.
We have that one, we have the Hokkaido one, we have Kamurocho again, then we have one in Sapporo, one in Nagoya. Actually, Sapporo is the one over in Hokkaido, rather, and then one in Osaka.
Yeah, because that's where the talent agency gets it.
That's where everyone
gets going.
Talks so goddamn fast, and I can't keep up.
So that's interesting. So that's like the equivalent of, like, I don't know, New England around here. That's I'm trying to think of what the fastest paced speech patterns in American English are.
I mean, I've heard that Coloradans talk quickly, but I don't think that's exactly true.
Well, I mean, I don't necessarily know whether you're indicative of all Coloradans. You seem to have a fairly reasonable cadence.
Also, that's right, Deckneck. There is a short little portion of Okinawa that we're in, because that's where the Sunshine Orphanage is located.
Oh,
but there's
okay.
not like a town map there, at least in 5. Maybe in earlier Yakuzas.
Do you have to be extra careful of being harassed by U.S. servicemen or something?
I have no idea. On that note, it looks like the U.S. has given back almost all the land, if not all of it, for the Okinawan base.
Oh, is that right?
Mm-hmm. One of the things that happened at the end of 2016 that wasn't bad.
Oh, jeez, I wonder whether or not that was a good deal or not. I guess we'll find out. Fullness of time. Well,
Oh, a thing says that Sunshine, that Yakuza 3 takes place mostly around Sunshine Orphanage. Well, crap, I have that game now. I got it for Christmas.
Oh, nice. Well, that reminds me, there is a game on my shelf that I'm pretty sure I was supposed to give to JG for Christmas, and I did not wrap it up. I have a habit of just, like, throughout the year, because I like to do a lot more old game shopping than
Sure.
he might. So if I see an older title, like, I've gotten him a ton, not obviously a comprehensive collection, but a ton of the old, the older Dynasty Warriors and Nobunaga's Ambition and Romance of the Three Kingdoms titles that he did not have. And he's probably not watching this, so I could give away which one I just picked up, but why bother?
No.
He might get around to it eventually, and I don't know if it would be too much of a shock. Well, fine. It's DW2, which is apparently the first one to really have... It's the first one on PlayStation 2, and it is the first one to have a... sort of follow the modern template of them, I remember I was looking up the series in the past, and just from like a Wikipedia description of Dynasty Warriors, the first one, it sounded like it was much more of a sort of a one-on-one combat style thing rather than being like you against...
A leader amongst a bunch of scrubs.
Yeah, just like a god amongst millions of guys that can't defend themselves. It was more of a like, oh yeah, sounded a little more like Bushido Blade, which was always a game that really interested me, but I never owned a copy of. But like, from like playing other people's borrowed copies or you know, renting it for a weekend or something like that, always seemed like it was a pretty interesting one.
From what I've seen, it's a fairly intense fighting game, being that one hit can take any fighter down if it's good enough.
Yeah, it seems like it's a little more realistic that way than, like, say, Samurai Showdown, where, like, yes, you're using these swords and things like that, but you just keep on, like, slicing at a guy for, like, you know, half a dozen times, and nothing will happen to him until, oh, he got KO'd for this round. Well, he's back up. Let's fight him one more and see whether or not, in 2 out of 3, slicing him to ribbons. Also, of course, you can be a guy that just has, I don't know, arms or something like that, and you can block sword strikes, which doesn't seem like it would quite work out.
Also, a non-E rather, 1180.
Oh, hey, Nani, how you doing?
Yes, you and JG play much of the Dynasty Warriors Gundam games.
We've played them before. I have copies of Dynasty Warriors Gundam. I think 2, possibly 3, hanging around. I think the thing that we end up with those is we didn't watch that many of the Gundam series. We watched, I think the only one that we've ever watched from stem to stern completely was G Gundam, which is kind of the most goofy of all of them, I feel like.
The one with the shining finger, if I remember.
The one with the shining finger and the, like, occasionally somewhat insensitive national identity Gundams, like Tequila Gundam, the Mexican Gundam that didn't wanna do any fighting. He just wanted to sit around.
I think lazy pacifist Gundams.
I think they called him something else in the English dub. I don't think they called him Tequila Gundam, but it's still like, oh, that's I don't know if that's the way to go. No.
Let's see the Santa comment above. Oh, here we go. Anani says, by the way, Bobo, I've eaten a bit less than half of the 20-inch chocolate Santa.
Ah, so
you apparently know what that is. Excellent.
Oh yeah, he had a 20-inch chocolate Santa that bore a role in some of the more recent Uncharted Waters New Horizons streams. Although I think the only
Zerf that was co-commentating, there was a Santa there too. Huh?
Yes. Although I think the only one that we ended up literally seeing. Also, geez, that must have been on Hitbox. Yeah, I guess I've done streaming of that since Christmas on both Hitbox and Beam. All right. The only one that we actually literally saw was Zerf's was one that he got where it was they'd literally taken a chocolate bunny mold and just wrapped it up in a St. Nicholas style foil. So like, you know, like, so instead of ears, that was like where the pointy Santa hat was, and the face was like a little bit higher up. And the sort of like fluffy, bushy, the fluffy, bushy bunny face was where the beard was. Was where the Santa beard was. It was pretty remarkable when I saw it.
Oh goodness! And now he says, "I laughed my ass off seeing that picture."
That was something else.
Comeback says, Snap, I missed Uncharted Waters. Will they be going to YouTube?
They will be going to YouTube, of course. My channel is tied up right now with the possibly least popular, well, least viewed, although very popular with the audience that is watching it, the Hatoful Boyfriend Holiday Star Christmas and New Year's special. As it, like the main game, ends up going on a lot longer than you initially expect when you go into it.
Lures you in.
Well, no, just the, like, I don't know how familiar you are with the realm of Hatoful Boyfriend, but basically, you go through, and it's sort of your standard romance thing, except all of the boyfriends are pigeons, and that's sort of good for a laugh and all. But once you've gone through and sort of played all of the different games and unlocked all of the different achievements that you get for romancing all of the various pigeons, an extra game mode unlocks, and that game mode takes more than the entire rest of the game put together, pretty much. And there aren't actually a whole lot of ways to lose in it either. It's just sort of a very long story narration.
Yeah, Xur says, way longer than the endless Christmas of read-only memories.
Yes. Oh, that's true. There was an extra special for that, wasn't there? It's just that there's not much. There wasn't much in it. It's just that you get to go talk to everybody again, and it's Christmas time.
Yep, and you've saved the day. All the machines are sentient now. Some of them hate you for it because they're just like floor scrubbers.
Yeah, I could see where not being smart enough to realize that you were a scrub would be better than actually wandering around with the knowledge that you're a scrub.
That's all you can amount to because you don't have the processors to be anything else.
Poor scrub lords. Although, I mean, you have to imagine that at that point, once the robots have will of their own, they would have to be able to, the same way that they're having a crisis in that universe and in so many sort of cyberpunk style futures of trying to figure out, well, people keep on modifying themselves and you know, giving themselves cybernetic parts and other sorts of enhancements and things like that. Well, surely the robots could do that even easier than the human beings could, right? I mean, a floor scrubber would have to be able to either transfer its consciousness into a much more sophisticated piece of machinery, or floor scrubber would have to be able to add modifications to itself to the point that it was a 5,000-pound killing machine if it wanted to.
Or at least have a few more soldered on RAM slots.
Yeah, there you go. I mean, yes, it would be impractical, but it's the same way that, like, I guess theoretically you can still make Commodore 64s connect to the internet in a modern realm, right?
I have no idea. What you said there is just witchcraft in my mind. And while Commodore 64 has some understanding of the internet,
I mean, it has.
Cody says it is possible. He's a credible source on such things.
I mean, it has expansion ports, and somebody I have to imagine, just for funsies, has managed to figure out some way to, like, backwards engineer a modem that would work for one.
That's right there, Nani. Nani says, Boston Dynamics will be the people against the wall when the robots rise up. Those dynamics, I tell you. Those robots look all cutesy at first, but nope. Once they have explosives on them, then they're not so cutesy, are they?
Oh man, it's like the world of Mega Man or something. All of the machines in Mega Man so adorable and cutesy. I mean, even once you get into the sort of like Mega Man X realm, I mean, they're still kind of cute looking in the anime sense. They're like sort of children's action anime as opposed to like sort of a dark, grim future anime or, your porny anime as some of them are.
Well, sure, I mean, Zero does get blown in half and his circuits are just everywhere, but sure, there are cutesy portions to the game as well.
Well, I mean, okay, spoiler alert, everybody. If you don't know how Mega Man X, the original, goes, you should stop this stream right now and go over and watch the VOD from Lethal's channel last night. If the VOD is available yet, I do not know how that. All right, well,
it's available very quickly after the stream.
There you go, folks. You can hop over to that and see what happens, but it's not exactly a graphic end for old Zero there, and who knows? I mean, he's a robot. Surely he could be rebuilt.
No,
they could make him.
Bobo.
No.
It's said that those who sacrifice themselves would never, ever return. It would not lie to me.
Oh, okay. Well, in that case, then Zero is done. I have to admit, there are a lot of really amazing bits of fan animation and things like that that have been done involving him since. And some random chick named Iris.
Need to revisit ZX too, but that's another story. That's a much longer game. There's a lot of smaller games I want to tackle, like Mega Man X, including possibly other Mega Man X's.
That's one of those. I sound like a stick in the mud or an old grandma that doesn't want a DVD player or something like that because the DVDs are too violent. But that is one of those things that I tend to really enjoy about older games. The newer games get, the more. And, you know, I understand why, and I understand why people would be disappointed if it didn't happen. But, like, any modern game, it's going to take hours and hours and hours and hours to see everything that's involved in it, where I might have just wanted a game that I could sit down and sort of in a weekend rentals time frame get through. And, like, you can still find stuff like that on Steam. And
for sure.
I will periodically go and try and check that sort of thing out. But, like, nobody's exactly making like AAA titles that are like that anymore. I think, didn't they try to? Wasn't that, what was that, 1886 game or something? Oh, I forget. There was a game.
Also, I gotta do this before it gets too far up there in the chat. And it says, Iris, what am I fighting for?
What am I fighting for?
Probably a reference that means more to you than me, but there you go.
Yes, I have probably played, just by sheer happenstance of like what games I had around, I've probably played more of Mega Man X4 than I have like Mega Man X or X2 or X3 or any of the rest of them.
And to be honest, I haven't played X4, X5, or X6. I've played X7.
Yeah, like I got, like I've collected all the Mega Man titles at this point in one collection or another. I have the Mega Man collection for the GameCube, which has all of the Mega Man titles, like the Mega Man Legacy collection that's out now for, like, that came out like last year, whenever it was. Oh, it's time to get new tires, so let's do that. I don't know if there's anybody else I need to try and make a moderator. That's probably good.
Let's see, Tom Box. I have not heard of 20XX. It's Rogue Legacy with progression. Rogue Legacy progression with Mega Man gameplay. And Novia says, only noticed Suzuki is the car name. Is Kiryu driving this? That can be in your headcanon there, Novia.
That's right.
Same thing.
And you can imagine that we have a passenger in the back if you want, or you can just imagine that we are trying to outrace somebody to make a little kid or make a young teenager convinced that he shouldn't take this path of being a street racer. I mean, the Escudo Pikes Peak in Gran Turismo 2 is essentially like having unlimited heat mode. I mean, you can pretty much just skim by everything at all times without any problems. And occasionally to have seizures like that one.
I was going to say, those have been a little more tame lately, but I shouldn't say anything. No, let's go ahead and make this roleplay real. I'm the passenger, you're Kiryu right now, okay? Alright,
damn it. How do you say shut up in Japanese?
I don't know.
Alright, I will just
the closest thing would be like urasai, which would be just saying noisy.
Urasai. But yeah, there you go. So something like that. And I just have to imagine that everyone that we pass is just yelling, ora, ora, ora!
Nani?
Oh, that's the one! Nani? Everybody just absolutely stunned at us heading past them at this speed.
Also, Nani, rip Mega Man Legend 3. Yeah. I really wish they'd made that game. But Capcom they hate money. They hate money.
So many fantastic games that so many companies decide they just don't want to make. I mean, I understand that Steambot Chronicles 2 might not have had the sort of track record behind it that, you know, a Mega Man Legends 3 or, you know, any
Street Fighter or
any additional Metroidvania games, or you know, a continuation of the Metal Gear series beyond, well, I guess Survive, which Lord knows what that's actually going to be. Is that going to be a non-canon thing, or is it they going to attempt to tie it into existing storylines? You remember that time the big boss got surrounded by zombies, and that's a thing?
Just throwing up my hands. I'm not sure if it's canon. To me, it isn't. That's all that matters. Why do people like Mega Man Legends? Controls are shit. Well, you know, we like a lot of games that have shitty controls there, JDL. Like, I like Tenchu.
I was going to say, pretty much
terrible controls.
Oh yeah, and I love Tenchu as well. That was before they figured out really how to make controls work well in a 3D environment. Partially due to the fact that for PlayStation 1, they had to make all of the games work with D-pad controls. Yep. Because otherwise they were eliminating everybody that had just sort of gotten a PlayStation when they first came out, or within the first several years of them coming out, and just had the standard PlayStation controller. They'd never gotten a DualShock. Yep. So, you know.
And for people who don't know what he's saying, well, originally the PlayStation controller did not have two twin sticks on it.
That's right, yes. There were no analog sticks on PlayStation controllers initially. That was an innovation that came like halfway through the life cycle, the same way that, you know, the Genesis had 3-button controllers for about half of the time that people were playing Genesis, until eventually they designed a 6-button controller because they had to figure out a way that people could play Street Fighter 2, because that's how powerful Street Fighter 2 was as a game and as a property at the time.
Which, looking back now with all of our modern fighters, it seems so unsophisticated.
Oh, I still hold it in such regard. I mean,
of course, it's a stepping stone to a higher perfection, but still.
I mean, I'm still, yeah. I mean, to me, I never evolved beyond the 2-dimensional fighter, really. So, like, to me, I think the best fighting game made that I can recall is probably Capcom vs. SNK 2, because that was the last time I feel like they put a real big AAA effort into a 2D drawn fighting game. I guess, I can't remember, maybe they've made a King of the Fighters since that wasn't a 3-dimensional one, although those have all gone to 3D in the meantime, too.
Yeah.
But I think that was like 2001, I think, was when Capcom vs. SNK 2 came out.
I mean, technically, the new Street Fighters are still 2D fighters, they're just rendered in 3D.
Yeah.
But they still play in 2 dimensions.
That's probably one of the reasons I kind of enjoyed Street Fighter Cross Tekken more than I enjoyed, like, whatever the other Tekken game was from around that same time. Those were another pair of games that I just sort of got chucked once to review. I was like, oh yeah, I really enjoyed Street Fighter Cross Tekken because they were clearly using the Street Fighter 4 engine. At least, geez, I hope they were, otherwise I'm remembering things completely wrong. I think they had a deal worked out where they were going to have a Street Fighter Cross Tekken game where they used the Street Fighter 4 engine, and then they were going to have a Tekken Cross Street Fighter game, the exact opposite, that was going to use whatever the most recent Tekken game's engine, like Tekken Tag Tournament 2 or whatever it was. And I don't know if they ever got around to making the Namco one, or if they just made the Capcom one.
No idea. Zerful asks, what about Guilty Gear?
Guilty Gear I know nothing of, other than like being familiar with the title. That's one of those ones that I just never had time to explore. There were so many games for sort of in the PlayStation era that were really fascinating and seemed like they would be really good to get into. But of course, that was where it all started, when games started being able to go onto discs, and they realized they could just they can add more game if they just put more discs on it. And that was when they just decided, we're going to make these games take days to play. And that sort of limits the amount of games that you can actually get under your belt if you're gonna deal with all of that. I'm clearly just a shiftless, lazy gamer that doesn't like to focus all of my attention on something for too long. I say as I go through a 2-hour endurance race.
Now, I was just about to bring that up. Savage says, I'm a big fan of Darkstalkers 3. That's a franchise that Capcom has really thrown under the bus, unless there's a Capcom versus Marvel or something such like that.
Well, that's the thing. I think they do more. I mean, other than the Street Fighter ones, it's all versus titles, and any of them that have Capcom versus are going to have Morgan as a character in it, probably. So there'll be something from Darkstalkers in it. I think Morgan is maybe one of the few enduring characters that at least Capcom feels. I think in the Pocket Fighter game, I think Felicia was in that one too. So I guess the cat girl. So I guess that she also managed to graduate from her own fighting game series. But I think in the big versus titles, Morgan is sort of the stock representative of Darkstalkers. And then I guess you get. Well, that's true, because like that's an actual legitimate fighting game, and I feel like they take more characters out of Mega Man than they do out of Darkstalkers for any of those big versus games, because like you can play and roll in those ones too, right? Or she's some kind of special unlockable costume.
Last one I played as was last one I played was Marvel vs. Capcom 3. I remember Zero being a character. I remember that. I don't think X or Mega Man was. I'm probably just full of shit. I think it was just Zero in there.
Huh. That is kind of surprising to not have Mega Man at all involved in it. I could see not having Mega Man and X as distinct characters, because like they are distinct, like in the timeline. They're from different like eras of the sort of future history of the Mega Man world, but you know, they do tend to blend together in people's minds. There's, like some people are like, oh, is it just Mega Man like a couple hundred years later and he's more upgraded? It's like, no.
Okay, so they did have him in there, Savage. Okay, maybe I'm just forgetting then. They may have used his Japanese name also.
He's just Rock. Rock!
It's better that way, right?
Yeah. Well, no, wait. I guess Mega Man X might not be Rock. He might be...
Nah, he's a different robot entirely, as far as I know.
Well, yeah, that he'd be a different robot, but like he might not just be called Rock X. He might be called something completely...
Well, no, he is actually known as Rockman X in Japan.
Oh, okay.
I only know because of the ROM titles, but that's enough, right?
That'll do it. Of course, there's a million different Mega Man cartoons, and I think there was at least one that featured Mega Man X. I don't know if it was like a time travel episode of an existing Mega Man cartoon.
Mega Man X went back in time, and so did like Spark Mandrill and Sigma was definitely there too. But yeah, they went back in time because the Mavericks had gone back in time too. So of course he had to go back.
Gotta go run them down, yeah.
Yeah, it's just terrible cartoons. I think they also had one for Mega Man Battle Network as well, or maybe it was the one that followed that.
They did, and they also had a Japanese OVA, I think, that seemingly was a lot more about just Mega Man, like, giving these kids a tour of Japan or something like that. I'm not exactly sure what was going on.
Let's see. Zerval says, I built my own arcade joystick box thing to play Marvel vs. Capcom 2 and throw my Xbox. Mega Man was my jam.
Yeah.
It's very good with him in 2, apparently. It's good. It's good.
I think JG has a little more experience under his belt of Marvel vs. Capcom. I forget if it's Marvel vs. Capcom or Marvel vs. Capcom 2 that he actually had a lot of experience playing at the arcades, because his student lounge in college or whatever it was might have had that game available, and so he went and played that one. Of course, I don't remember playing that much stand-up arcade stuff in college, though they had one. I think we were all just too cheap. We stayed at home.
Sure, of course.
Of course, when I was in college, that was like basically around the start of people like doing emulation as a pretty regular thing. So you know, that reliving all of those games and those experiences was enough to sort of keep you in. that, and you know, it was the height of PS1 and N64, which is a great time for party games.
I was gonna say, not exactly the height of fighting games on the N64, of course.
No,
top
I guess
titles
not.
like Mace. Fucking Mace.
I mean, yeah. Although, I mean, they did have some good fighting games on PS1. They also had some pretty trash ones. They had some ones that were just downright interesting, but were not maybe necessarily good games. Like, I always go to Evil Zone as an example for that one, which I did a series on my channel years and years ago, and I kind of want to revisit just now that I've got better technology to do that sort of thing. But it was a doozy, because it was one of those ones where they got sort of wrapped up in the idea that they could make it just like an anime. Like, they could do all the storyline, they could do the voice dubbing, and they could intersperse animated sequences and things like that, and they took the ball and they ran with it. Also, of course, you know, that was back when everything that could be rendered in a limited number of polygons was. There was that. There was Tobal number 1. Who remembers Tobal number 1? Anybody raising their hands?
On that, apparently Zerf plays as Morgan, Arthur, and Akuma in Marvel vs. Capcom 3.
Oh, okay.
And his highlight was he beat some top-ranked guy, got an achievement on the game. My goodness.
Yeah, that is one of those things. I never got into playing online, like, ranked competition on any games. I guess, in part because most of the ones that I played, you know, were pre-online rankings. And also just because, you know, I got happy enough just sort of playing at home, either playing against the computer or going to ladders up. JG and I eventually made a hobby of playing the team games, like Capcom vs. SNK 2 is one where you can select a team of anywhere between 1 and 3 fighters, and that like balances out, like, you know, you can have one guy who has 4 points, or a 3 and 1, or a 2 and 2, or a 1 and 2. And I guess, you know, they take half damage or twice damage, depending.
Sure.
And we just, you know, sort of arrange our team and then sort of hot controller back and forth because, you know, growing up, we did a lot of playing Street Fighter 2 against each other, and that can get contentious between siblings if you go on too long that way. So,
absolutely.
Eventually, we just, you know, we would make a common enemy out of the cheat-haxing Ultimate Akuma, or Ultimate Rugal and Super Akuma.
I was gonna say, that's my only experience with that game is watching you and JG. I think get rocked by Akuma the first time. Then you took down Rugal the second time. In one of those runs, or something like that. Yeah,
I forget. Oh, that's right. Yeah, it was Super Akuma. I don't know whether or not we ever played against the Ultimate Akuma, or if it was just a regular Akuma. I think we played as Rugal in one of those runarounds because you know, Rugal's just a fun guy to play as. You can play as Akuma and Rugal in that game, but you know, they're appropriately nerfed. The way that they would have to be to sort of balance down properly. Oh, had a little moment there.
Also, I hear you there, Savage. You said Soul Calibur 2 was all about where fighting games got too ridiculous with having to know the inputs for me.
Oh, for me, I think that was Killer Instinct. Like, basically, Killer Instinct was just, like, if you punch a person and then you remember the specific series of, like, low, medium, high, kick, punch, etc., you could chain together a combo that would take off the person's entire life meter and be like 128 hits or something like that.
And the other person would have to put in the combo breaker.
That's right. Unless the other person knew the combo breaker, things were gonna have a bad time. And like you could pretty much figure out the maybe like the 8-hit combos just by button mashing. And again, 8-hit combo just by button mashing, that seems like it's an awful lot, but you couldn't get the, like, 64-hit ones, or, you know, whatever the other ones 64. I forget where exactly, how far you had to get to Ultra. I think that might have been 64.
That sounds like something they would do. 64 was all about having 64s everywhere.
All that, yeah, I guess, was Killer Instinct on the N64? I know it was on the,
Well,
I know it was on the SNES, but they probably had more than one.
There was one on the SNES, and there was one on the N64.
Okay.
It was Killer Instinct 64.
As, I guess, by the
Killer
time...
Instinct Gold, yeah.
By the time they got to the GameCube, I guess they had started to give up on the idea of, well, every new game for the new system, we're just going to have a different name for it. Because, of course, every game on the regular Nintendo was just whatever the name of the thing was. And then every game on Super Nintendo...
Cube, not exactly marketable.
that every game on Super Nintendo was Super whatever the game is. And then every game on N64 is whatever the game is 64. Although...
Oh, Surf missed the sexiest lap. Ooh.
Sexiest laugh?
Lap. The one that was
lap.
before this one.
Oh, right. I thought you were talking about the sexiest laugh. I'm like, I don't remember saying anything that caused any kind of that kind of laughter out of Lethal, but could have happened. And then I was like, oh, maybe there was a laugh that I missed in the later Ooh La La soundboard on last night's stream, but
Not sure if there's any laughing in that one, but nope, just laughs. Just laughs.
Just for laughs.
But still on our fighting game topic, I've really never been too skilled at fighting games myself. The only one that I gained any kind of real proficiency in was probably Bloody Roar 3. Mostly because I played that at my job at the school district back in the day.
Now, I can't remember whether Bloody Roar, it was Bloody Roar 2 or Bloody Roar 3. One of them I didn't play very much, but was popular amongst some of my college friends, especially Michaelis, who has done some. I think he did a series on YouTube of Bloody Roar 4, but I can't remember if it was 2 or 3. It was on PlayStation 1, so that might help narrow it down. But this was back in the days when, you know, in early Polygon games, they got all amused by the idea that it was easy to like sort of alter the sizes of things. You could just scale them up, you could scale them down, you could smush them without having to create all new sprites. You just had to change parameters within whatever the thing was. And so there was, I don't remember if it was a debug mode for Bloody Roar 2 or if it was just you press down an L1 and triangle all at the same time while selecting your character or something like that. And you could give, like, you could have George the circus monkey with a tiny head, a huge torso, or you know all the various different you know combinations of that. I remember that was a real fun one to do with. I'm trying to remember, was it Cruisin' USA or was it? What was the other sort of arcadey racing title that was big on?
Probably not San Francisco Rush.
Might have been San Francisco Rush for N64.
I don't know if I call that arcadey. I would call that fucking out of control.
Well, I mean, you know, a little zany. That was one where you could set up. I remember that was one where there was a code where you could set your car to be a landmine, and you could drive up to other cars and collide with them, and they would explode.
Yep.
And you could either set deaths to be permanent, and just setting deaths permanent on that was a lot of fun because you would just drive around, you know, relatively sedately as best you could, and every other character, CPU, everyone would all blow up at some point. So you would be a winner by being the only car to finish.
Definitely remember that because that game is very, very dangerous.
It's dangerous.
The physics are pretty Moon-like.
Yeah.
You soar through the air. When you hit the ground, there's always the worry if you're going to bounce ridiculously out of control because that's what happens. You hit the ground like flat. The car's like, oh, time for me to do a goddamn front flip.
Yes,
you
that
land
one
on
is.
Your roof, you instantly explode.
That one is a hoot. I think I did 1 or 2 plays of Rush 2049, which I guess is just a, you know, like futuristic front end on it. I think you could make the car sprout wings, although they didn't seem to do that much other than allow you to do a barrel roll, which there wasn't much of a reason to do because it would just mean your car would turn upside down and you know, blow up when you landed. But it was possible. Alright, yep, there we are. Pass all of the other competitors as though they stand still. Jeez, maybe I...
That's the birthright of the Escudo.
You know, maybe for the final World Cup, the World Class Challenge, when I eventually get around to doing that, I really should do that as a...
as a competitive mobile?
As a competitive car, as opposed...
sporting.
Yeah, as opposed to a ruin it for everyone sort of a car, as the Escudo is.
I don't know if you ruin it for everyone here. I mean, you still have 86 viewers watching, so we haven't completely blown them away with the Escudo antics, right?
They aren't leaking off like so much memory.
Let's see, Cog Raven says, one of the only fighting games I have played is Persona 4 Arena. I've only seen that one played myself. Yeah, Bloody Roar 3 is the one I played. It's not the one you were talking about. There's no head changing. But I did like how you could like transform into your animal self mid-combo. I'd always thought that was pretty fucking cool.
That's cool.
So you start out punching a guy with Kung Fu, then suddenly you're a tiger.
And you're
who does
balling
like some
him.
kind of Kaioken Kamehameha on somebody.
What Kaioken?
It's pretty great. Also, where'd these guys come from?
They both just emerged from the pits, and now I'm apparently just going to interrupt their competition. Excuse me, coming there. All right.
Sorry, losers. I got a race to win. Again.
Bonk.
That's right there, Novia's old.
Just grab a taxi. More OP. That's right. And I just need to make sure to get a paint job that has a picture of my adopted orphan, my adopted orphan teen idol on it.
It's the only thing that's appropriate.
Now, it would be fun if there were like subtle, like that somehow subtly affected the game, and that it somehow improved the career of oh jeez, I can't remember the names of any of the characters. It's sad.
Also, Zerf, the only one that really comes to mind for me would be, oh, damn it. I say it comes to mind, and then it completely flies away. Skullgirls, that's the one. Thank you, Rodolero. Really, I just used my power of suggestion there, and it went right to Rodolero.
I think
that one still got competition.
I don't know if there's online multiplayer for it, but I don't see a good reason why there wouldn't. But didn't Capcom release like a like some sort of ultimate revised HD edition of like Street Fighter 2 Turbo or something like that for Steam? That seems like the kind of thing that you should be able to online play. I was thinking about picking that up and maybe doing a series on that, because I think the if I remember reading on it right, well, also because I picked up a Capcom bundle that had it, but I seem to remember reading that like the story mode was done a little bit differently. And if that's so, then that's a perfectly good excuse to sort of punch and kick my way through all of the various heroes in Street Fighter again. Plus Thunderhawk and Fei Long and Cammy and DJ.
Let's see, I'm not seeing that regrettably. I see 5, I see 4, I see 4 Ultra, I see Street Fighter X Tekken. And that's all the ones with Street Fighter in their name on Steam.
Oh, maybe it was just the digital download. Oh well. Though again, anything that you download for your PC, there's no reason you shouldn't be able to online multiplayer in some way, shape, or form. Seems like it would be simple enough. I mean, obviously, if they're not designed to, they're not designed to. I'm not suggesting that, but I'm not suggesting that is a feature that would be easy enough to mod into a game.
For sure. Yeah. I mean, even if you had some kind of beam set or soundboard, command board or whatever on there, you wouldn't be able to respond fast enough, even with 0.02 delay.
Yeah, you'd never be able to get
frame
the... You'd never be able to get a Raging Demon to work, yeah. Well, that's, yeah. Both just played somewhere else, and it would be a it would just be the most sluggish, drunken-looking game of Street Fighter you'd ever seen.
You'd have to use the force to actually anticipate your opponent's moves.
It could just be like a game of rock, paper, scissors. You just like you program in a set of moves or inputs for your character to do before the fight starts, and then you and the other person that also programmed in a set of button inputs also, you know, takes them out there, and then you see whether or not your guys even come into contact with each other, or leap over each other, and just sort of hop around in corners.
Also, Deserve, I know that Street Fighter 5 and 4 both have online multiplayer. I just know it's not the most fantastic of things. It's not the best experience. Mostly because of Hugh Dawson.
Wait, you mean Hugh Dawson has ruined online multiplayer for Street Fighters 4 and 5?
I mean, I'm not going to assert that he did, but sure, he did. At least in the UK.
Is he just too OP?
Well, that and his connection. Well, everyone's connection just isn't good enough for their netcode or something. Especially when you're streaming, for sure.
That makes a certain amount of sense, I guess. Wow. I don't know if I'm just...
Tell you, says the dude. That's right. Tell him everything that was said. I know. So shit, jigs up.
I wonder if Grimmeth was trying to raid me earlier to show me what raids are like, because I had expressed earlier in conversation to him that I hadn't been raided and I didn't know what the whole deal was. Seems like it would be something that would be potentially nice or potentially a hijacking, depending on how many people did it and how rude they were about it.
Yeah. I'm of the mind where I'm sort of on the fence. I'm going to accept raids until they become an issue. First time they become an issue, then they're gone.
I could see a wings.
You know, I just don't think I'm likable enough to be raided, really.
That might be. Thus far, I apparently I operate for the most part enough under the radar that nobody is going to raid. But
we had good timing today because we started up just as Grim was closing off, which helps whenever you're gonna throw up a raid.
Yeah, to have a target that theoretically people in your little streaming ecosystem might already know about. You can just toss them right over there. But that doesn't as much seem to me like a raid as it does just, oh, I'm done, I'm hosting, here you go, see ya.
Yeah.
I guess raiding involves the streamer providing specific instructions to his acolytes or whatever.
Maybe what all startup is a whole new thing on Beam. We'll have stealth raids where you don't say anything. You just enter and all of a sudden their number's higher and they're like, what? But maybe that wouldn't be good enough for them, right?
Maybe, or
to know them there.
Maybe everybody hops on and you all just start whispering.
Oh, whispering.
Oh, we're not actually impacting your chat at all. Don't worry about it.
Or maybe instead of having my viewers say something random, watch the stream for a bit and then say stuff that's on topic, folks. We'll totally get it. Great.
Aw, you guys are gonna be so fooled when, like, basically what I want you to do is go into the raid, find out what the topic of conversation is, and then provide your own insight. Oh my god.
So nefarious. They won't see it coming.
They won't even see it going. They will just think they suddenly got popular. / get good.
True, Suzuki. You've almost got 100 followers now. My goodness.
Oh man.
And you started today with like 16 or something.
It is the power of it's the power of Monster Tajima here.
For sure.
I do appreciate that this car was made. I mean, it was made by a team of engineers that he had, but the guy that drove it up Pikes Peak was also the guy that was primarily responsible for getting it all assembled and put together and run and stuff. And that his nickname is Monster Tajima, and that this was pretty much just his whole deal. Like every year, he would put together a badass hill climb car to go take on Pikes Peak. Like he does electric cars now. He still does it, but he competes in the electric car class.
Oh, roll out the banner because we made it to 100. I saw the achievement on your screen actually.
These good times. Oh, and we are at an hour 41, and we're 81 laps in.
18 minutes remain, folks. My goodness, it's
you know
going
what?
to happen.
Let's go ahead and pit in for one last good set of tires so that we can. These ones aren't completely off yet, but there's no reason to try and stretch them out to their max because we'll be done with them in this amount of time. Try and go for some really solid lap time. My best lap right now is minute 11, which I was already down to the minute 15 minute 15 mark last go around. So I realize last go around it says minute 23, but that takes into account the slowing down to drive into the pit lane and so forth. So that's.
Zerf says, I feel like they need a good co-op rally game where you have a navigator and he's got to let you know what's coming up.
Oh, like a bomb core.
No in-game hairpin turn sign.
That would actually be. I mean, that's a thing that like I don't know how familiar everybody is with rally racing, but like they literally do have a co-driver in rallies that reads a set. Like basically they go out earlier and they take notes on the terrain and the order of turns, the distance of turns, the severity of turns, and they have their own lingo that they put together to let the guys know what's coming up next and what to be in position for after that, and so on and so forth. They could. That would be a really interesting thing to see them attempt to do. Something like a bomb core or a don't talk or don't. What is it? Don't talk or someone explodes or what is it? It's
keep
basically
talking or someone explodes.
That's keep talking or someone explodes. It's I guess it's a slightly different spin on bomb core, but it's still one person is a diffuser and one person is a read a bomb instructions person. But
Novia says that Jeff had a game like that. Well, I know that like the dirt games, I can't remember exactly which one I played that had this as a prominent feature, but some of the later dirt games do have a navigator in the car with you that simulates the real experience. Which is nice.
But they don't have a navigator simulation where you are just in the car and you're reading out notes. They could do that, and every time you try to tell them, all right, drive toward the box, they'd say, I don't understand. Crash.
And by box, I mean that it is a hairpin turn to the right, and where it says right, it should be left.
Oh, you meant the bugs. Okay. I'll go there. Run! Right.
Alright, going to the hallway.
Alright, driving to the hallway. Stop!
I know fucking Zerf just said no patience for Rio or whatever her name is. Stop! Fucking stop. God damn it. Bathroom. Hallway, God. Stop.
I wonder how far, like, targeted voice, how far like a targeted voice identification has come, because like obviously like they're trying to get they're trying to make voice identification now that will pretty well identify conversational English for the most part, but like I wonder if you could increase the accuracy by just basically narrowing down so deeply the like set of commands that it's just like, you just need to be able to know if I'm saying right or left, the number that I'm saying, whether or not I'm talking about meters, feet, whatever sort of thing. If I say hairpin, you understand, like basically just program in like driving terms, whether or not you could actually get a pretty spot on driver to accept your navigator, your co-driver comments.
Google probably has the technology already, to be honest. They have pretty good voice recognition.
I guess I still just occasionally think of every time I try and ask Siri something.
Well, with any voice recognition, I found you need to learn how to speak with it, because even though it speaks or it understands English, it definitely recognizes some words better than others.
Yeah.
So, like, when I want Google to go someplace, I'm all, or maybe if I want to play music on Spotify, I'm all, okay, Google, you gotta go like that, wait for the noise, play, Future Development by Del the Funky Homo Sapien on Spotify, and then it'll go, okay, after thinking about it for a while.
I would love if it spoke in that voice. Okay.
Yeah, so get a lethal troll voice language pack for your phone.
What do you want me to do, boss?
Okay. The enunciation makes a difference, says Savage as well. Yeah, it certainly does. You need, if you have very, very like strict diction, where you're all, okay, do this exactly this way. Hear every syllable clearly and audibly, and it's all okay.
Yep. If you are just attempting to have a conversation with Google and be like, "Hey Google, I want to go to the movie tonight," instead of saying, "Google, tell me movie listings for tonight." You know what would be great is if anybody watching had one of those. I guess Echo doesn't do it, but what is the Hey Google receiver? Yeah, the Google Homes. If they had their Google Homes right now and we were just fucking with them.
God damn it.
Hey
Okay,
Google. Okay,
order
Google.
20 pizzas.
Ah, you were going pizza delivery too. Fantastic.
To house.
To home. Charge Visa.
Oh, goodness. Back to racing games. We still need to get around to playing. Oh, which one were we playing? Was it going to be Dirt? No, it was not any of those.
Oh,
like,
the
Dirtball, you and I were gonna do a game.
Yeah, because the
It was a Grid 2? I think it was Grid 2.
yeah, I think it was any of the Grid games basically, because like pretty sure I got a bundle at some time or another that had like everything Grid ever. I'm like, well, that sounds like something I'd be interested in. Of course, that's not exactly getting off of the simulation style bent, but
Yeah.
but I don't know. I'd be okay with with that.
I mean, if you want to get off the simulation, Ben, there's games that do that. Of course, there's like Sonic and All-Stars Racing Transformed. You'd have to play that a bit by yourself, of course, to get used to it. It's a kart driving game.
Well, that's the thing. I've got that, and I've got Mario Kart 8, but I haven't sat down and played either of them enough to basically have seen all of the tracks, because you need to unlock things in them.
Well,
But,
I'm pretty unreal at Sonic and All-Stars Team Racing Transformed, so I won't suggest that you play that play that with me.
Oh, I see.
It is a great game. You should play it, but you should train first.
I should go get underneath a waterfall with my PC and my controller. You don't use wheels or anything else like that for your racing games. Are you all out serious that way, or?
No, I don't have $300 for one of those Logitech Super Wheels. Although
Yeah.
I'd like to have one.
Oh, I would love to have one. I just don't know where I would have it. Like, because I do all of my gaming in my living room, and I don't really have a separate space for it, and I can't really put that in my living room and have it occupy all of the space all the time.
Understandable.
Plus, there's not it's not a good seat. Well, I guess most of those come with their own like racing seat anymore. I was just thinking of the wheel and pedals, but I guess a lot of them come with the seats now too.
Also, Zerfall totally doesn't have a wheel. Shifty eyes.
I have a wheel, but it's like a really old wheel that I think it's a USB 1 wheel, and it might still work for modern stuff, but I never got a whole lot of use out of it either because of the same issue. Like, I didn't have a place that I could keep it where I could access it all the time.
So Rev pops in and says, "Oh snap, I can count these polygons. I know there's like a whole 26 on screen at once." It's a high poly count back in these days.
I was gonna say, this game looked fantastic at the time.
Cool.
Like, I remember looking at this game and thinking, well, where are they gonna go from here? I mean, I could read, it says Suzuki right there.
And the things say Exxon and Mobil on the side. There's people there. I mean, come on, right?
Yeah, well, I mean,
Gran
obviously,
Turismo 2. they're advertising the game inside the game, so you buy the game.
That's right. Well, I mean, if you rented it, maybe you'll be really interested in. Oh, geez, this is a time capsule because all the Exxon signs and mobile signs are separate.
Instead of one joined entity, yes.
One solid entity shaking hands with Vladimir Putin.
It's also a time capsule, as Zerfall pointed out, because the Nissan logo is a super old school one as well.
Oh yeah, that's right. It's not. It has different colors, and it's not just a silver orb. Of course, he apparently has like a branding style manual for Nissan somewhere at his house or something. I'm not really sure what's going on there.
Well,
I mean,
you know, a graphic designer man would have that, right?
The graphic designer man. Well, I mean, it also time capsule. It has Mercury logos at all. Rip
Yeah.
Mercury. Rip Plymouth.
Rip Pontiac.
That's true. I can't remember if there are any Pontiacs in this one, although, geez, that'd be a fun part of playing Forza Horizon. I know for sure that you can get an 82 Trans Am in that.
Well, there you go.
Get one in black with gold trim.
With those crazy, like, doors that just, like, or windows or whatever that peel off the top, you know what I mean?
Yeah, and get the giant flaming chicken decal on the hood.
Yes, chicken. I mean, we know that chickens are fast. Yakuza has taught us this. Chickens are essentially the bow of speed.
So which was your fastest chicken in the end? I believe
Gen 7.
Okay, yeah. I was pretty sure that, unfortunately, Carl's Jr. did not end up being the pick of the litter.
Unfortunately not. But it's not the chicken's fault, it's the game's fault, being structured as it was.
Alright, so we've got 7 minutes left and we have to do 9 laps, so I don't think we are going to achieve the 99 lap mark, unfortunately, but we're going to get damn close.
Their wheels will probably be yellow by the end of it.
Yeah, they'll be nice and warmed up.
You can say, what other games on Steam, racing games, can we play together that I don't have a advantage in? The Grid would be a good one. I'm looking for more arcadey games. Unfortunately,
it's not half bad. Grid is not half bad. I mean, Grid is one where, like, you get bonuses for how much you drift. So, in a sense, it's arcadey that way, because you don't actually want to drift through corners to go through corners quickly. It's not the fast way to get through a turn. It's the, sort of the showy way to get through a turn, but...
I think Tabletop Racing is on Steam, but I have a lot of experience with that thanks to PlayStation.
Oh.
They give it away in PlayStation Plus.
That's the sort of modern Micro Machines game?
Yeah, there's a lot of, like, environments where you're driving around on tables and stuff like that. There's one where it's like a sushi bar thing.
Oh, I feel like I remember having... Oh, and I can't remember it now.
JD has it on his.
There was I feel like there was maybe either a free-to-play racing game that was like clearly just something where they had like the bones down for a game, but they hadn't programmed in a bunch of cars or anything else like that, so it was like maybe only 1 or 2.
Mm-hmm.
It's not going to be a good description. And then they just moved on to a sequel that they charged for. But I can't remember which one it was.
I have no idea, GJ.
Yeah.
Other ones there'd be. I'm looking for like kart racers. I don't think there's any AG racers currently on Steam that are actually feature complete. Like there's one that I kickstarted by the name of Formula Fusion. That one's still being worked on. There's Redout, but as far as I'm aware, that is a VR only game.
Although if they had jeez, that would be fantastic if there was a game like Redout that was playable on VR, but also just in regular controls. And so then you could, if you wanted to, you could opt for the complete immersion experience and compete against the rest of us schmoes just with our gamepads.
Well, they say they have something called OSVR, so maybe that's something else. I'm not exactly sure what OSVR is. It sounds like something like that. Let's see. There's no description of what the fuck this is. What the hell? Let me figure it out. That's exactly what you want.
Let's see.
What the hell is OSVR? Open source for virtual reality, huh? Didn't even know they had one of those. Okay. So that one's just sort of like a united virtual reality experience. Okay, gotcha. Just so you don't have to tie it to one headset. So that won't help you play that game regrettably.
So like it's something designed around like you've got like 5 different VR headsets and you want them all to do the same thing?
Well, yeah, like a lot of games, they're designed for either the Vive or for the Oculus Rift. But this would be just like a united a toolkit, so you don't have to make it specialized for one headset.
Oh, I see.
Which is a good thing.
Do you have any interest in trying to program anything involving either of those two systems?
Say that again?
Do you have any interest in attempting to program anything for either of those two systems?
Me? I don't have... Well, programming's not really a big problem with 3D games for me. And the problem for me is art assets. Because making... Well, modeling, really, is not exactly something I have any experience in. And I don't have any experience with all the other things with making animations, because of course it requires all that Autodesk software. And that Autodesk software is ludicrously expensive. I wish I did.
Sure. Then you would be making this. Then you would be making that game right now, and it would be maybe more arcadey than this.
Perhaps. I think if I had more game creation experience and I could make the assets for a game, I'd probably make a continuation to the SWAT series. That didn't look like ass. Well, it doesn't look completely terrible.
Yeah, I guess the SWAT series was the SWAT series spun off of the. Is that the Sierra series that originally started out? Yeah.
It came from Police Quest.
Yes, but then it sort of spun out into like tactics for how to approach a hostile situation rather than investigating a crime.
Yeah, SWAT. The SWAT expansion became so much more serious than Police Quest ever was. I mean, Police Quest was serious, right?
Sure.
You could die for not doing dumb things.
Well, I mean, even Police Quest got slightly more serious as time went on. Just as the graphics became more realistic, they're like, all right, now you're going to encounter, you know, here's dead body, guys. We're showing you a picture of it.
Also, the gameplay completely changed as well, as Zerf was pointing out in the chat. Like, SWAT 1 was adventure game-esque, but then when you get to SWAT 2, all of a sudden you have some sort of almost RTS kind of thing. It's just not as good as a real RTS, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Because you have to control each of your units individually. I really wish it worked better. I'd like to play it.
Now, if this were an old-fashioned or real endurance race like this, and we had the lead that we did, I probably would have, either under instructions or just under my own instincts, probably just slowed way down on the last lap and just gained an extra 30 seconds worth of time just sort of meandering around the course, rather than risk having something bad happen going around this final lap. But we are now over the 2-hour mark. So, next time we come around should be the big victory.
And we can roll out the banner and you'll have one race left in this thing?
Well, no, I will have a series of 5 races left in this game, but I will be on the Gran Turismo World Championship Series, which I think is 5 races, but they are not Enduros. I think, well, I mean, they're like 10 laps each, so it does end up getting to be an investment of time to go through the whole thing.
When do we get to see those?
I guess the next time I sit down and do this stuff. Hopefully I will find a better controller for that. Oh, and to celebrate, we go through and have a relatively clean lap. I didn't hit too many things. I didn't hit the wall in that final turn.
Didn't contribute to our handling this time. What a world.
Okay. 7 laps above. The GT40 race car was actually the second place car in this. I was thinking the R390 was a shoe-in, but it was down 2 laps on second place. That is...
Fancy old yellow Lister Storm brings up the behind.
It always seems to. I just feel like it was a fish out of water in this game. Like it was too powerful for... It had too high an engine power, because like that was the way this game was like handicapped. There would be certain races where if you had a car that had like 390 horsepower, for example, then you weren't allowed to race in this race because your car was just going to beat everybody else, and it was supposed to be a race for little tiny baby cars. But I think the Lister Storm was just too weak for any of these like unlimited races. I guess free is what it says there. And let's watch the replay, everybody. This shouldn't be any big deal at all. Well, we can take a few glory shot looks at some of the competition here, I guess, as we sum things up.
Paul is really disappointed in the Jaguar driver. Just mediocre.
Yeah. Let's see. Oh, there it is. See, it's a real hot-looking car, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's real fancy and swoopy, but yeah.
It looks very Ferrari-esque, at least from the front.
Yeah, it's sort of got this low, wide stance, sort of space potty. But and then the back just appears to be just a giant exhaust grill, which okay, that's a style choice. Yes,
it's true, Grimmett. This is not a snooze fest. This is the Bobo and Lethal Web Show.
Everybody
is driving in the background.
Okay, let's move on to the other cars here. Let's look at this Lister. The poor, sad, lamented Lister. I think it has an engine power that is just too high for any of the races that have engine limits, but it's just too weak compared to anything that's going to be in one of the no limits races. So it just always ends up sucking it up, being rammed into from behind constantly by the Suzuki Escudo.
Suzuki somehow keeps
like,
control with.
Pardon me. And pieces don't go flying off. Alright. Well, let's see. So that's the Lister. That was fun. The Vector M12. I don't think this ever actually got to Le Mans, but the Vector M12 was an American supercar. Well, purportedly so. The Vector W2 was an all-American car from its design, its engineering. The motor in it was sourced from Chevrolet, so that was American as well. But basically, the intellectual property of Vector as a brand name got bought up by a consortium that I think was out of the Philippines, that also at the time owned some stake in Lamborghini. So this ended up being a part Lamborghini thing.
Of course, people nowadays know that Vector went on to make all varieties of giant robots and spacecraft, and are ultimately responsible for the near destruction of the universe.
That sounds about right.
Yep.
It's either that or it's Lady X, the robot that was cloned from, I don't know, not Dixie Clemens, one of the other ladies, one of the other ladies from that game. Or it's, you know, Doatech is going to be the one that brings down the world by cloning some ninja lady and turning her into the ultimate soldier.
Of course. What does our newest ultimate soldier look like? Well, she's translucent, but she has huge gams, and she's very good at fighting.
That's right. And don't forget the knockers, my gosh.
We're running a business here, damn it.
There you go. Come back to me when the cup size is up. Alright. Well, oh my god, look at the individual pixels in the like sky background here. I never noticed that until just now.
Like it's like it's a Minecraft stream. That's why you have so many viewers right now. They're confused when they see the thumbnails.
They're like, what? Minecraft in the background, cars in front? What kind of mullet is this? Alright, well that was a good time, but my dinner's now apparently over an hour cold, and I am pretty ready for it. But you know what? I feel like I might miss having the game audio, but you know, the unfair advantage of having the Escudo with us was enough to overcome that, at least. That and the terrible control issues that we were having. Whee!
Yes, the gravity from your rearview mirror.
Right. So I enjoyed that. I appreciated you coming along, Lethal. I certainly needed the assistance in terms of keeping the stream at all interactive for people. So I'm glad we had that.
That was a good 2-hour talk.
Yeah. And we'll have to figure out more to do in future. I guess I do still need to do the last championship of this if you felt like joining me for that.
Sure, I want to see it happen.
Beyond that, we just got to have the excitement of figuring out what the next thing that we would all do together is. I think maybe we should actually all settle down. I've never actually played Grid 2. I think Zerf has some. I don't know if you have any background in it, but
I've played it a little bit.
Yeah, we could all come at it relatively cold, other than maybe Zerf. So, give him a little bit of handicapping. Slight amount, but not a lot. So there you go. It could be a 3-player grid down rusty casual style. Or
we probably should play a little more just because you unlock I think stuff. You do unlock cars, yeah.
Yeah.
Otherwise we'll all be driving the same ride and
Now, I don't know whether or not Grid 2 is the one where you can do that. There are some where you can, assemble teams, and then, basically you have your success. I mean, you have your individual championship, but then you also have a team championship, and that you can win or lose it that way. But, if Grid has that, great. If not, we'll check it out anyway. But that's all for... That's all for a future time. I'm going to go ahead and say goodnight here now to the stream. Thank everybody for being out here. This apparently turned out to be a huge success, while I just sort of stared onward at these cars going around. But thanks everybody for showing up. Thank you for the conversation, and you guys all have good nights. I mean, actually, I might be on later to do something else, but I guess as it turns out, Bean is completely engrossed in Dragon Age, so maybe later on I'll just get a few more sessions of Final Fantasy Mystic Quest under my belt. Who knows? I guess it depends, too, on whether anybody else has exciting plans for the evening in terms of Beam going on. If they do, I wouldn't necessarily try and usurp them on that. But I'll be in touch, guys. Thanks for showing up, and I will see you all in future times. This is BoboTheVulture.
And I've been Lethal Feline.
You guys have good nights. Bye now.
You have. I mean, you can probably get any car in the game at this point, right?
I could, but not from this. Hey, extra bonus, everybody. I totally forgot that after we win the race, we need to collect our prize, so I know you're all excited to see what that is. And we get 300 grand. Alright. Wind down. There we go. New car acquired. That's what we're looking for. Let's overwrite the memory on card 1. Maybe I will just patch this together on the... patch this together when I'm actually uploading it. That seems like the thing to do. But for right now, let's go ahead and exit out of there. We will continue on. And see, does this kick us back out to the world map? The world map. Does it kick us back out to the menu that looks kind of like a map, or does it kick us back out to the race menu? Sure does take a while to load. Oh, there it goes. Alright. Let's go to our house. That is where you go to find out what's up. Damn it! Damn it, game status. Alright. The controller behaving against me again. Ooh! This is not going to be of any use to us for the rest of the game because it's too slow for the final championship, but it's a pretty nice car for what it is. The
cute little gubbins.
The Corolla rally car. You got 397 horsepower, all-wheel drive, and space in the back for groceries. So,
I do remember your love of station wagons. This one's a little too short to be a full station wagon, but there you go.
I appreciate some utility in my vehicles. And this definitely has the sport, so it's pretty nice that way. Although, yeah, my stomach's crumbling. I'm not going to do a test of it right now or anything else like that. But there you go, folks. For that 2 hours and all of that discussion, all that hemming and hawing, the raid, everything else, we won a Toyota Corolla. Good night.